So I've got a question. I've got a set that's all set up of new stuff to do, but I've also got some stuff that's Dylan related. Is there a preference to do Dylan related on Dylan's birthday week, or Dylan stuff, or new stuff? Dylan, new. Nobody gives a shit.
New.
You got it.
One person. Okay, sounds good. Okay, start the fire. She used to pull the hair out of the brush and leave it in the ashtray, and he, when no one was looking, would pull out a match and light a match and set it off, watching the follicles go up, each independently, until the full blaze caught, flaring and blowing in one final blowout. He stopped doing it when she stopped smoking, and the ashtrays disappeared from the house. Though he still loved the fire, he didn't have the opportunity to get it going anymore. There may be a lesson here for any who care to learn it. That was called Start the Fire. Secret histories and awkward origins. After my second gig, my father gave his review. It seemed like you repeated a lot of material. I looked over the spreadsheet and I repeated maybe 33% of the pieces from my first gig, like 3 months before. Compared to my musical compatriots, that's not bad. Compared to comedians, that's astounding. Still, 2 out of 3 wasn't good enough for my dad, so I started working on trying not to repeat material at all, so I wouldn't get called up by assholes like my ancestor. I write when I'm inspired, but I do what I can to bring inspiration to my door by giving myself time to write most days, in the morning, in the evening. Ain't that fun? I try to output all the time. It's been getting kind of crazy lately, and I don't expect to be able to perform all of this until I start performing a whole lot more days. Not that my pop is around to give me crap anymore. He wasn't paying that much attention near the end, anyway. That was Secret Histories and Awkward Origins. Yeah. Thanks. The bottle rests at my side as the television stares back silent, alone again. I fiddle with the player, looking for the right playlist. I need hope to be added to my life where there is none to be found. With a sad smile, I find that I'm looking for it and press the appropriate button. Christmas songs in January will hopefully do the trick. They play softly from the player as I sip straight from the bottle, watching Lamont bicker with Fred. This is the cure for what ails me, I'm sure. Christmas tunes in January, eventually. Until then, more Fireball. That was the right playlist. We were talking about our favorite artist and how it was a shame that it wasn't reciprocal. I don't think she likes me, he said. Well, he amended, I don't think she appreciates what I do. I hear you, I replied. I go to her shows whenever I can, but I don't think I've ever seen her at one of mine. I profess love for what she does, and she's always polite, always friendly to me. But she's never said anything one way or another about what I do. Exactly, he said. Of course, it's not about reciprocity. Nobody has to like what I do. I get it. Still, I nodded. I got it too. At no point did I say to him or did he say to me how frequently we had ever gone to each other's gigs, which could be calculated in goose eggs, as we pondered why she didn't love us enough. We never got satisfactory answers. That was our favorite act. This is my opinion on her song. It's not about the same woman in the last piece. It's about someone else entirely. It goes like this. She asked me what I thought about the song, and I said I liked it, but that wasn't entirely honest. I didn't exactly understand it, and when I asked a couple of questions, I understood why. You improvised the lyrics. Yeah, I just sang what I felt, she said, what seemed right in the moment. So you didn't have a plan. Well, I knew what I was going to do. I nodded as if that made sense at all. That made no sense to me at fucking all. My concrete sensibilities could not parse the lyrics or that way to structure a work of art. Going in without a plan could make something formless, something indescribable, something probably completely senseless, without sense. Who could think under those conditions? It'll take me a few more lessons to get it, I think, I explained, and she nodded, ready to begin her next song. That was my opinion on her song. This is a short poem about her story. If there had been more matriarchies, some people think there might be less violence in society. I don't know if that would be true, but I'd be happy to be proven wrong. This is called a short poem about aspirations. I am not quite sure how this will go. The last time we saw each other started out with an awkward lunch at a mediocre diner that ended with an overnight visit to the hospital. No permanent damage, but still. I'm certain nothing permanent will arise after this meeting either, but perhaps we can spring for a nicer place. A short poem about aspirations. This is Fishbowl. You say we've met before, but just before. You say we've met before, but that just couldn't be so. You're the sort of person that I don't think I'd let go of. Not to powder nose or call a friend or get a drink. If I'd met you earlier, I'd remember, I should think. This has got to be my first sighting in all my days. The first time that your gorgeous face is witnessed by my gaze. The first time that I've had a chance to glance at you at all. The first time that our paths have crossed within this watery wall. This fishbowl life we've given gives us just so many laps. And sometimes my memories come across some gaps. But I couldn't perceive you being one. I mean, just look at you. That is, if you were something you were adapted to do. So if you say you remember me, I guess it's fact, for though I may be a boy of infinitesimal tact, if you say we have met before, I guess it's not a lie. It simply boggles my mind that don't remember I. How could I forget any as prepossessing as thee? At this moment you have made quite the mark on me. When we met before, was it before a spell? Have you not had surgery? Were any gods compelled? There is little I remember from my earlier fishbowl life. If you had greeted me then, had we chased an old wife, I don't believe I'd recall it at all on this fine day. Please don't take it personally. I'll hold on to this some way. That was called Fishbowl. This is called Clean It Up. The floor isn't going to wash itself, though I keep begging it to. I've threatened the dishes with the Greek fate sometimes, more times than I can count, but they refuse to self-clean. The oven at least does have a self-maintenance mechanism, but it requires someone to turn it on. And whose responsibility does that become? I think we know the answer to that one. I don't think it's fair. Why does this all have to fall on me? I didn't choose to have a home. Why can't somebody take care of me as the child I so obviously behave like? That was Clean It Up. Thanks. Worst case scenario, she kills you on the spot. Then she decides to start a vendetta on your family. She's heard you talk about your mother, so she's the first to go. She knows where you hang out, so that's blown up next. Your apartment and roommate are somehow disappeared soon after. You don't know how because you're dead, but your schools, college, high school, junior high, primary, all seem to have been proven contaminated in some way and must be condemned immediately. How does she have this power? You knew she was formidable, but you never dreamed she could destroy everything about you simply on a whim, with such ease. You begin to wonder if your father's death almost a decade before could somehow be blamed on her, but you didn't even know her then. How could she have suspected? No, surely she is not so brilliant, so omniscient, to have suspected that you might meet years later, and she might catch your eye, and you might date, and you might dare to ask her out for coffee. She couldn't know so much. Still, it's better not to chance it. After all, what's the best that could happen? I'm gonna do one more. It's gonna be the Dylan. I'm gonna be one of the many Dylans. It's called What Would Dylan Do? The problems in the world grow greater every year. The times there are changing, I can state with all due fear. An idiot wind's blowing into the town today, and I sometimes need to ask myself if there is any way to get through all the hurricanes and hard rains through the fall, to arrive at summer days and answer proudly nature's call, to become the best that I can be, to mine own self be true, and so I ask myself, what is it Dylan would do? If Dylan were here, he would crash and burn. He would seek out his mentor for lessons to learn. An asshole in his interviews, he'd tape on video, then release them to the world so his persona we would know. He'd rarely be the same man twice, a cipher to his fans. Dylan would deceive us, telling lies as part of plans. To always leave us guessing, constantly we misconstrue the way to reply to the question, what would Dylan do? Since Dylan was discovered at the birth of the decade that redefined our culture, countering the ways we made our musicians into idols, our songwriters into stars, he's been so many people they'll compose just one memoirs. In any case, when you wonder how he'd handle it, no matter what the it may be, it matters not a whit. In film, he's been portrayed as 6, not merely 1 or 2. So he contained multitudes is what Dylan would do. Of the premier songsters as the king, Bob has been crowned, and his flexibility in telling stories is renowned. His tales include his autobiography, it seems. For each story he stitches seems to split some at the seams. His story is inconsistent when he tells it week to weeks. You can hear when Bobby's lying. It's whenever the guy speaks. For a time, Robert Zimmerman denied being Jew, so it seems it really varies as to what Dylan would do. If Dylan were around, he'd deny the things I've said. He'd point to friends to verify his stories, they'd be dead. He'd sing some social commentary and bleat the best of songs, all of which get better when the covers come along. He's best being interpreted, that's Dylan to a T. And if you don't like my critique, then don't listen to me. For when asking what would Dylan do, the first on any list is ignoring others' comments. That's what Dylan does the best.
Jon Berger, everybody.